Let me start with a statement that might sting a little. Most men over 50 are sleepwalking through life. They've spent decades working, building, sacrificing, and surviving. But when it comes to love and relationships, they're often more lost than the younger men they criticize. And the painful truth? After 50, very few men actually know what women really respect, what keeps a relationship alive, and what destroys it faster than anything else. Now, some of you listening might already be defensive, thinking, I've been married 20 years, I know my woman. Or maybe you're single and you're telling yourself, at my age, I don't need to worry about these things. But let me tell you the hard truth. If you don't understand what I'm about to break down, you'll either live the rest of your years in quiet frustration, or you'll keep repeating the same relationship mistakes that younger men are making right now. See, here's the controversy most people avoid. Love after 50 is not about romance. It's about respect, growth, and clarity. If you don't evolve as a man by this stage of life, you'll end up being tolerated instead of admired, ignored instead of desired. And worst of all, you'll become invisible to the very person you thought would love you forever. And this is where men get it wrong. They think longevity in a relationship equals success. They believe that just being there is enough. But ask yourself, how many older men do you know who live in unhappy marriages where communication is dead, intimacy is gone, and respect is non-existent? Too many. They may have the title of husband, but inside their own homes, they've become strangers. Let me give you an example. I once met a man in his late 50s, successful in his career, respected in his community, but completely miserable in his relationship. He told me, I don't understand my wife anymore. We don't connect. She doesn't look at me the way she used to, and I feel like I'm just her roommate. This wasn't a weak man. He wasn't broke. He wasn't lazy. But he missed the truth that every man after 50 needs to know. Love changes, and if you don't change with it, you'll lose everything, even while staying in the relationship. The shocking part? Very few men talk about this. Instead, they joke about it. They sit around with their friends complaining about their wives, laughing about the lack of intimacy, and hiding behind phrases like, that's just marriage. But here's the controversial truth. That's not just marriage, that's neglect. That's what happens when a man stops learning, stops leading, and stops showing up with the presence that made him attractive in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to become some over-the-top romantic or try to act like you're 25 again. That's not the point. What I'm saying is that after 50, your relationship requires wisdom, strength, and intentional effort, not excuses. If you don't evolve, you'll fade. And when you fade, respect fades. And when respect fades, love follows right behind. Think about it. Women do not lose interest in men simply because of age. They lose interest in men because those men stop inspiring them, stop listening, and stop growing. A man who turns 50 but still carries curiosity, ambition, and emotional intelligence will always stand out, even more than the younger guy trying to compete with muscles and charm. So here's where I want to be very clear with you. If you're a man over 50, you cannot afford to live passively in your relationships. You cannot afford to ignore the shifts that happen in love as both you and your partner age. You cannot keep relying on the past, thinking that the years you've invested are enough to keep her respect alive. They're not. Relationships are not trophies you hang on the wall. They're living, breathing connections that require your presence every single day. And yes, this may sound harsh, but better you hear it from me now than learn it later when it's too late. Too many men wake up at 55 or 60 only to realize their partner doesn't truly respect them anymore. Not because of betrayal, not because of money, but because the man failed to grow into the role that was required of him. So, what should you know after 50 that very few men ever learn? Over the course of this video, I'll break it down into 3 powerful truths. Truths that will challenge you, provoke you, and, if you're willing to apply them, could completely transform your love life no matter where you are right now. But before we even get there, let me leave you with this thought. Being over 50 doesn't mean you're past your prime. It means you're finally old enough to stop lying to yourself. You've got less time to waste and more wisdom to apply. The question is, will you use it? Or will you keep coasting until your relationship dies a slow, silent death? Men, the choice is yours. Respect matters. more than love. Let me say something that might sound shocking to you. After 50, respect will carry your relationship more than love ever will. Men don't like to hear this because we've been raised on the idea that love is the glue that holds everything together. But the truth is this: love without respect is just tolerance. And if your partner tolerates you but doesn't truly respect you, your relationship is already halfway dead. Think about it. When you were younger, love was often built on passion, attraction, and excitement. That energy could cover up a lot of flaws. But after 50, life is different. Your partner has seen the real you. She knows your habits, your weaknesses, your strengths, and your failures. At this stage, passion is nice, love is good, but what she truly needs to feel for you is respect, because respect is the foundation of long-term attraction. Here's where men get it wrong. They think love automatically equals respect. They assume, she loves me, so of course she respects me. Wrong. You can love someone and still not respect them. You can love a family member but not trust their decisions. You can love a friend but not admire their lifestyle. The same happens in relationships. A woman may still care for you deeply, but quietly lose respect for the way you live, the way you act, or the way you carry yourself. And here's the controversial part. Once respect is gone, love doesn't hold much weight. A woman can stay with you because of duty, because of history, even because of convenience. But she won't look at you with admiration. She won't listen to you with genuine interest. And she definitely won't feel that deep attraction that only comes from respecting a man. Now let's be clear. Respect is not about fear. It's not about dominance. Respect is about how you carry yourself as a man. It's about whether you keep your word. It's about whether you have standards for yourself. It's about whether you continue to grow and lead even when life gets tough. Let me give you a real example. I once knew a man, let's call him Richard. Richard was in his early 50s, married for over 25 years. He loved his wife, provided for her, and would often remind her of his sacrifices for the family. But here was the problem. Richard had stopped taking care of himself. He had no real hobbies outside of work, no goals beyond just surviving the day. He had become predictable, comfortable, and passive. One evening, Richard overheard his wife on the phone with her sister. She said something that hit him like a punch. "I love Richard, but I don't look up to him anymore. He's just there." That one line destroyed him, and it should, because what his wife was really saying is that the respect she once had for him had faded. She didn't admire him anymore. She didn't see him as a man she could be proud of, just as a man she was used to. And here's the point. Richard had confused love with respect. He thought providing was enough. He thought history was enough. He thought being physically present was enough. But what his wife really wanted was for him to continue to be a man worth admiring. She wanted him to have fire, discipline, vision. She wanted him to still carry himself with the energy of someone who had not given up on life. This is the wake-up call every man over 50 needs. You cannot demand respect, you must earn it daily. And earning respect has nothing to do with age. It's not about being younger, stronger, or richer. It's about showing that you still stand for something, that you still have discipline, that you still grow, still learn, and still hold yourself to a higher standard. If you walk around bitter, lazy, or checked out from life, don't be surprised when the respect in your home fades. Don't be shocked when she looks at you like you're just another piece of furniture in the house. Because here's the reality. Without respect, you become invisible. So what can you do? Start by looking in the mirror. Ask yourself, do I live in a way that my partner can admire? Do I carry myself with discipline? Do I keep my word? Do I chase growth? Or have I settled into comfort? Respect is built in the daily choices you make, not the words you say. And here's the good news. It's never too late to turn it around. If you start showing up as a man with purpose, if you start investing in yourself again, physically, mentally, and emotionally, you'll notice a shift. Respect can be rebuilt. Admiration can return. And once respect comes back, love takes on a whole new depth. So remember this. After 50, love is not enough. Respect is the fuel that keeps the fire alive. Without it, your relationship will survive, but it won't thrive. With it, you won't just be loved, you'll be admired. And that is what every man truly needs. Comfort kills attraction. Let's be honest, men, comfort is the silent killer of attraction. After 50, most of us slip into routines that feel safe, predictable, and easy. We wake up at the same time, wear the same clothes, eat the same meals, watch the same shows, and talk about the same things. On the surface, it feels normal. It feels like stability. But beneath that stability, something dangerous is happening. The spark in your relationship is slowly dying. Here's the truth. What keeps a relationship alive isn't just love, it's energy. Energy comes from curiosity, from effort, from surprise, and from growth. But when a man gets too comfortable, he stops bringing that energy. He stops making an effort. He starts acting like the relationship will simply run on autopilot because of all the years invested. And that's when attraction begins to fade. Think about it. When you first met your partner, you put in the effort. You paid attention to the way you dressed. You listened with interest. You had plans, ambitions, and things to talk about. You showed her sides of yourself that were fresh, engaging, and alive. That energy created attraction. But fast forward a few decades, and many men stop doing those things. They let routine replace intention. They let comfort replace effort. And without realizing it, they start living like roommates instead of partners. Now, here's the controversial part. Women don't lose attraction because of age. They lose attraction because of laziness. They lose attraction because the man they once admired stops moving forward. If you've stopped caring about your appearance, stopped working on yourself, stopped having new experiences, then don't be surprised when she stops looking at you with the same spark in her eyes. Attraction requires freshness. It requires effort. Comfort suffocates it. And here's what makes this so relatable. Every man knows deep down when he has slipped into comfort. You know when you're coasting. You know when you've stopped putting in effort. Maybe it's in the way you sit in front of the TV every evening instead of engaging. Maybe it's the way you give the same answers to the same questions without really thinking. Maybe it's the way you've stopped taking risks, stopped challenging yourself, and settled into the idea that this is just how life is now. But let me tell you something, attraction doesn't survive on this is just how life is. Attraction survives on movement, on growth, on the feeling that life is still unfolding, not closing in. And if you want your relationship to remain alive after 50, you cannot afford to live on autopilot. Here's something many men refuse to accept. The years you've invested in your relationship do not give you permission to stop trying. In fact, the longer you've been together, the more important it is to keep showing up with energy. Because over time, familiarity can become your enemy. When she knows every detail about you, every routine, every habit, then your job as a man is to keep surprising her with your growth, to keep her seeing that there's more to you than what she's already known for decades. And no, this doesn't mean you have to act younger or chase unrealistic fantasies. It simply means you cannot let yourself rot in comfort. You cannot let your life shrink into predictability. You cannot hand away the energy that keeps attraction alive by becoming passive. Ask yourself, when was the last time you did something new? When was the last time you pushed yourself outside of your usual rhythm? When was the last time you created excitement instead of waiting for it? These are the questions that separate men who keep their relationships alive from men who slowly kill them without even realizing it. Because here's the reality. Comfort feels good, but it starves attraction. You may think your partner loves the routine, the predictability, the safety, but deep down, she still craves the man who keeps things alive, the man who shows effort, the man who proves that time doesn't make him lazy. And if you're honest with yourself, you crave that too. You don't want to feel like life is winding down. You want to feel alive. You want to feel admired. And admiration only comes when you refuse to settle. So let me leave you with this. After 50, comfort is the easiest trap to fall into, and the most dangerous one. It makes you feel safe while slowly killing the very energy your relationship needs to thrive. Attraction doesn't die because of age. It dies because men let comfort choke the life out of it. The solution? Stay alive. Keep moving, keep surprising, keep proving, not with words but with actions, that you refuse to be swallowed by routine. Because when you kill comfort, you keep attraction alive. And that's what keeps respect, desire, and love burning strong even after 50. If you stop growing, she stops caring. Men, let me tell you something most won't. The day you stop growing is the day your relationship begins to die. Not because your partner stops loving you overnight, but because she slowly starts losing the reason to admire you, respect you, and invest in you. Here's the harsh reality. Too many men after 50 think growth is optional. They think, I've worked hard, I've raised kids, I've built a life, now I can just relax. That mindset is poison, because when you stop growing, you don't just stand still, you start declining. And when you decline, the people closest to you notice first, especially your partner. Let me be blunt. Women don't check out of relationships because of wrinkles or gray hair. They check out when they see a man who has lost his fire, a man who no longer has ambition, no longer has curiosity, no longer has vision. A man who wakes up, goes through the motions, and calls that living. That's not living. That's existing. And existing is not attractive. Here's the criticism you need to hear. Some of you have become lazy with your own potential. You complain that your partner doesn't care the way she used to, but ask yourself, what are you giving her to care about? If all you do is repeat the same habits, talk about the same problems, and live in the same small circle, how do you expect her to feel inspired by you? You've stopped giving her something to admire. Growth doesn't mean you need to build an empire at 55. It doesn't mean you need to run marathons or start businesses unless you want to. Growth means refusing to let yourself shrink. It means you're still learning, still improving, still chasing something that gives your life meaning. It could be as simple as improving your health, picking up new skills, deepening your emotional intelligence, or taking leadership in areas of your life you've neglected. And here's why this matters. When a woman sees her man growing, she feels safe investing in him. She sees that he's not stuck, not stagnant, not giving up. She sees that being with him means being connected to energy, to movement, to possibility. That makes her want to keep caring, keep respecting, keep standing by him. But when a man gives up on himself, he unintentionally tells his partner, there's nothing left here to believe in. And slowly, she stops caring. Now, some of you might argue, but I've already achieved enough. I've done my part. And yes, maybe you have achieved a lot. But here's the truth. The past doesn't keep your relationship alive. The present does. Respect doesn't come from what you did 20 years ago. It comes from who you are right now. And let's be honest, this is where a lot of men need to wake up. Stop using your history as an excuse to avoid growth. Stop hiding behind your age as a reason to settle. If you're still breathing, you still have work to do. You still have room to grow. You still have areas to sharpen. And the moment you tell yourself otherwise, you start fading. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being alive. It's about proving, not to your partner, but to yourself, that you're still in the fight, that you still demand more from yourself than comfort and routine. Because when you live that way, people notice. She notices. And when she sees you taking your growth seriously, she will take you seriously. Men, I want you to hear me clearly. Your relationship after 50 doesn't need a younger version of you. It doesn't need you to be richer or stronger than you were at 30. What it needs is a man who refuses to quit on himself, a man who shows that life is still worth pursuing, a man who proves that growth has no expiration date. So here's the challenge. If you've stopped growing, wake up. Stop blaming her for not caring when you've given her nothing to care about. Stop expecting respect when you've stopped respecting your own potential. And stop lying to yourself that age is a reason to sit still. Age is not an excuse. It's a responsibility. The older you get, the more you should embody wisdom, discipline, and strength, not passivity. Because at the end of the day, here's the simple truth. If you stop growing, she stops caring. But if you keep growing, she will never forget why she chose you. And more importantly, you'll never forget why you chose yourself. Men, we've walked through 3 truths that most refuse to face after 50. We've talked about respect being more important than love, about how comfort kills attraction, and about how growth keeps your relationship alive. Now let's close this with something that may make you uncomfortable, but sometimes discomfort is exactly what we need to wake up. Here it is. Most men don't lose their relationships after 50 because of women. They lose them because of themselves. Read that again. Let it sink in. It's not her age, not her mood, not her expectations. It's your lack of growth, your lack of discipline, your lack of presence. That's the controversial truth. We can point fingers, we can complain about how relationships change, but at the core, many men are simply not holding themselves accountable. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but let me explain why it matters. When you put the blame outside yourself, you give up your power. When you say, she changed, she doesn't care, she doesn't respect me, you're essentially saying you have no control over your own life or your own relationship. But when you accept that it starts with you, when you face the fact that maybe you got lazy, maybe you got too comfortable, maybe you stopped growing, then suddenly you have the power to change. And that's the wake-up call most men avoid. They want sympathy, they want excuses. But sympathy won't make your partner respect you again, and excuses won't bring back attraction. Only action will, only growth will, only becoming the kind of man who refuses to settle will. Here's the thing, your partner doesn't need you to be flawless. She doesn't need you to be rich, young, or perfect, but she does need to see that you still stand for something, that you still have fight in you, that you're still a man who pushes forward, not one who collapses into routine. So let me challenge you with this. Look at your life right now and ask yourself, if she met you today, would she still admire you? Not based on your past, not based on your history, but based on the man you are right now? If the answer is no, then it's time to stop lying to yourself. It's time to stop blaming circumstances, stop blaming her, and start taking responsibility. Because here's the truth that men rarely want to face. If she stops respecting you, it's almost always because you stopped respecting yourself first. That's the controversial statement nobody likes to say out loud, but it's the one that can save you. If you respect yourself, if you demand growth from yourself, discipline from yourself, and presence from yourself, then respect will follow in your relationship. Attraction will follow, love will follow. But if you abandon yourself, don't expect her to keep investing in what you've already given up on. Now, some of you might feel defensive hearing this, and that's fine. Discomfort is a sign that the truth is hitting close to home. But instead of brushing it off, sit with it. Ask yourself, have I been showing up as the man I expect her to admire? Or have I been coasting, hiding, and blaming instead of leading, growing, and inspiring? This is not about guilt. This is about awakening, because the good news is that it's never too late. You can rebuild respect, you can kill comfort, you can start growing again, but it starts with you making the choice to stop coasting and start living with intention. And I'll leave you with this. After 50, life is too short for denial. You don't have decades to waste anymore. You have right now. Every choice you make from this point on will either bring life back into your relationship or drain it further, and the responsibility is in your hands, not hers. Now, I want to hear from you. Be honest. Where in your life have you let comfort, laziness, or passivity take over? Where have you stopped growing? Drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments. I'll be reading them and I'll respond, because this isn't just a video. It's a conversation. I want to connect with you, challenge you, and walk through this with you. Because here's the final truth. The man who refuses to wake up will lose everything quietly. But the man who accepts responsibility and rises again will not only save his relationship, he'll save himself. And at the end of the day, men, that's what this is all about.